Welcome to At the Disney Movies with the Hearts.
I'm Kelly.
I am David.
And this week, this is what happens when you leave Grandpa alone with his guns and his whiskey. And his brain.
I don't know how much of a brain he has, but it's Scandalous John.
From 1971.
Hello, this is Rod McEwen. Pastures Green is a song I wrote for a new motion picture entitled Scandalous John. People think he's crazy.
Paco! Vámonos!
They call him Scandalous.
Buenos días, señor. Put that hat back on your head. Don't take your hat off to no man. I said boots.
I think he's beautiful.
You're out of touch with reality, John.
You didn't write down the year, did you?
No, I didn't.
This is an odd movie.
This movie's cuckoo, crazy, bird, bananas. This is almost a Disney art house film. But the weird side of Disney where it's a Western art house film.
So, I had a kind of a hard time with this movie because there were certain things about it that I found hysterical.
Oh.
But there was a lot of it that I was really bored.
This movie is very funny.
But it's also kind of boring.
See, I didn't think it was that boring. Boy, do you have to be comfortable with some mental illness and
it's kind of dark and like it is.
That's what I mean.
Kind of just troubling a little bit.
It's like an art house movie, but maybe unintentionally.
Yeah.
So because it really explores a lot of parts of the human psyche, and even Paco's crazy positive vibe psyche that kind of jives with everything. It gets weird. It gets real weird.
It is definitely not what I was expecting.
No.
Especially when we watched the opening credits and it says Brian Keith, I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic.
He was amazing.
Well, that's not what I was going to say. He was amazing, but it was also just, I don't know, this is an odd movie.
I could barely sit in my seat when I saw his name.
I know.
Crawl across the thing.
Did.
I was like,
you broke the rule of the podcast.
Wait, but that was a genuine shock on me. I was like, oh my God. What?
You're like, Kelly, look, it's Brian.
I didn't say that.
No, but your face said that.
Yeah.
And you're like, Brian, my number one dude.
I was like, wait, what? What are we getting for? We're in for Brian Keith being Hunter S. Thompson.
It was just that's all I can say. It was very. Oh no, I was gonna say they never explained why he was so scandalous. Like, what is the scandalous part about that?
That he's crazy.
Well, yeah, but crazy.
I think but back then, being crazy was very scandalous. And he does give a lot of money away, and he kind of buys people's affections to offset his crazy.
Yeah.
So that's a little scandalous.
So scandalous.
Yeah, I mean, but everybody loves him. That's come in contact with him because he's giving them a couple bucks.
Yeah, including all the little children in the village.
Yeah, he throws them change. He knows what he's doing. He's better than the politicians. You
know what this movie is? This movie is the sequel to those Callaways, because this is after Mrs. Callaway has died.
You know,
and he goes back to his alcoholic ways, and little old what's her face?
Amy.
Amanda is his granddaughter.
From the other guy that did the stuff.
What?
You know, the kid.
Yeah, the kid and Birdie. It's their daughter, and then you know what?
Oh, Bridie,
whatever. Kind of looks like them, just saying. So that's my theory. This is actually Callaway's the sequel.
Yeah. Those Callaways.
And so this is all after all the birds have died and the water's dried up.
If he grew up on the exact opposite side of America and Canada that he did.
Or maybe this is the alternate reality of Callaways.
I think it's the alternate reality.
Where he never met Mrs. Callaway.
Well, and he grew up in the Southwest instead of the Northeast.
And he just goes into his alcoholism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, really, I mean, it could be the same thing as the Callaways, just had he been born in a different place.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. Because Miss Callaway definitely died before he did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's the sequel. This is what happens after. And he gets so depressed because she died, and he goes back to his alcoholic ways.
I
And
say alternate timeline.
And he's just trying to save the farm.
Yeah, fair enough. It's the same thing, just an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
In the Southwest.
Yeah, so let me read the synopsis really quick.
Yeah, but this is the Amazon synopsis because this clearly is not available on Disney Plus for one large reason.
Well, which large reason? The prevalence of alcoholism?
Oh, I didn't think that was a big deal. I thought it was the
Or the Hispanic stereotypes?
there is no real stereotypes, which they actually did a really good job of that.
Well, but that's what people, like, just based on the Amazon reviews, that's what they're upset about, apparently.
Paco was a great character. There's not a lot of stereotypes.
And he's actually, guess what? He's actually from Mexico.
Yeah. Paco's great. But there's a word that they use to describe Paco many times.
And it's literally the opening line of the movie.
It is the opening line of the movie. And it's one of the very highly offensive terms for a person of Mexican origin in the United States.
Yeah, it's
You'll figure out what it is, but they use it a lot. And casually.
Yeah, it's just not ideal.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so Scandalous John. Genre, Western. A rancher and his handyman do battle against a wealthy industrialist.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about right. But because the synopsis on Amazon is so short, I was kind of scrolling through the reviews on Amazon, and there was a couple really good ones. I like the title of this one. Good, clean family entertainment.
Whoa. I mean, which is generally true.
Or another one. Blast from the past. Memories from my childhood. Do they mean like your father was alcoholic? Or do they mean like watching the movie as a child?
Probably watching the movie as a child.
But
it's like, okay, boomer.
Yeah. Had a lot of mixed reviews on there, but
it's Amazon. I don't really know how to read into that. But our director, Robert Butler, who directed a million TV shows.
I literally know nothing that he's done, and that's a first for me.
What about Hogan's Heroes? You've seen that? Or haven't you ever seen The New Adventures of Superman, Lois and Clark?
Well, yeah, but he was alternate people on that. He wasn't the director.
Oh, I see.
He wasn't the actual director. Just what I'm saying is all the stuff he directed. I mean, he directed something called High Street Blues and a bunch of TV movies in the 70s.
So he did direct one other movie on our list, The Barefoot Executive.
Oh, he directed that too? I thought that just came out in the same year as this.
No, he directed it too.
Oh, okay. So that maybe, I mean, we'll see. Is the person barefoot because they're an alcoholic? I don't know. We'll see.
I'm gonna guess just right off the bat that it's a hippie executive, and he's like, "Hey, man, we got to get in touch with the people, man." Just based on the year.
And then they're in court, and he had like, "Oh, let me feel your aura, and I'll be able to tell if you're lying, man."
Exactly. You're picking up what I'm putting down, but yeah, he's kind of a nothing. This movie is very bizarrely directed.
Yeah, it's just. I think that also this is it's a really good example of why I don't really like Westerns that much in general. I mean, I like The Lone Ranger, but I don't really like Westerns because they just are so boring to me. Oh, here's some landscapes and some horses going around, but there's parts of them I like. I like the gunfight parts. But then
this movie's way better than that.
But then it's like, oh, let's be boring again for 5 minutes. And then, like, one exciting thing happens. Oh, let's be boring again for 5 minutes. And I'm just like, oh my god. Like, you could have cut out, like, 75% of this.
So, okay. Brian Keith, we already talked about. Parent Trap, Calloway's. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he plays a belligerent, elderly alcoholic with dementia as best as he possibly can.
Yeah, he basically plays, even though it's before that, he plays Hunter S. Thompson as Johnny Depp plays him in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas as a Western man.
Yeah, it's an odd character.
It's a very, very, very characterized.
What do you mean? What I mean? Go on, play them guitars. How can I? On.
So your John Wayne thing from earlier was not that far off.
I was telling David, maybe there'll be some sort of a John Wayne type in this movie.
And that's 100% what he was trying to do.
It was just like
it was a demented John Wayne.
Half of the scenes with him in, I didn't even know what he was saying. If we did not have the subtitles on, I would not have known what he was saying.
Even with the subtitles, I was very confused.
But then some of the lines that he said
were hilarious.
Were so funny.
Yeah.
Especially the part where he's talking to the guy in the shop, and the guy's like,
"Yeah, we'll get to that."
Okay, we'll get to that. But
Alfonso Aru
played Paco,
and his big movie was where he was El Guapo in Three Amigos, which is a fantastic film.
My little butterfly, that's the sweetest. Oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
And he was in hundreds of other, I won't say Mexican because I don't know, but other Latin productions. Just, this guy is clearly a prolific Spanish language actor.
Yeah, and I mean, in all of the English language movies he's always the typical, like, Hispanic guy, and it's, you know.
And I felt that he was fantastic in this movie.
No, he was really good. I enjoyed his part, and I actually didn't think he was Hispanic at first because of the time.
Neither did I.
But then I looked it up, and I
was very pleasantly surprised that he was playing a very genuine version of himself, and he did an amazing job. He really smoothed a lot of the weird parts of this movie out.
Well, and then their dynamic was in a weird way very endearing.
Oh, it was great. I loved their dynamic.
So it was just strange.
It was clear that this dude was super nice, and he recognized the kind of demented mental illness in this other guy, and he knew he had to take care of him. And he knew how to kind of feed his ego while also taking good care of him.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Michelle Carey played Amanda, and she did, a lot of movies in the late 60s.
Just a whole bunch
70s.
of Westerns. She's honestly, we just watched this movie 20 minutes ago. And if you put 6 ladies up in a row, I wouldn't be able to pick her out.
She's definitely very forgettable, and I mean...
And very plain.
Her character even is kind of forgettable. Just like, okay.
Her character was actually not that bad. I just think she kind of f***ed it up.
Yeah, I mean, she was just... I don't know.
Because they could have had the lady from Bullwick Griffin play her.
Yeah.
And it would have been what they were actually going for.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. They were going for the tough... hard nose, and she couldn't really do it.
Yeah. I mean, they could have had Annette Funicello do it, and she probably would have done a better job.
That's true, and that's saying a lot. And then Ricky Lenz, old Jimmy...
Whittaker? So that guy looked super familiar, but
because he's been in 1 million TV shows.
He's that guy in that thing type character actor. I recognized him, but I couldn't say.
And you recognized him when he was older. I mean, he was in such great classics as The Greatest American Hero and Wings.
2 things that I have not seen.
Yeah, I just picked out the two ones that were funniest to me that I've seen, and those were the 2. And then a big shout out to the first small town sheriff, Harry Morgan from MASH.
Yep.
Who is a incredible actor, and his scenes were very, very good. And he was very, very good as his role as the peaceful, unarmed sheriff.
You know perfectly well I don't carry a gun. I go unarmed in emulation of the London Bobbies.
Best watch out you don't get a hole in your emulation.
It's just odd.
Well, it's not odd. It just goes to show you that, life used to be a little different, and everybody didn't have to be scared. You didn't have to shoot the criminal if he was running away.
Yeah, you just get your lights stolen.
Yeah. And maybe a tire flattened.
Yeah.
It's, you live to fight another day, and so do they. So, do you have any fun facts, Kelly?
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of facts available for this movie, but the one that just made everything make so much more sense. If you've read Don Quixote, do you know the story of Don Quixote?
No.
So that's what this movie is based on.
Oh.
It is a Western retelling of Don Quixote, and Don Quixote is a very famous story about this guy who thinks he's a knight and he's fighting what he thinks are dragons, but they're actually just windmills. So he's charging at windmills with his knight armor. It's a Spanish story.
Gotcha.
But we read it when I took Spanish class in high school. But it's about a crazy person who everybody loves, and he doesn't realize he's crazy, and it's kind of sad. It's a sad story. So
yeah.
So it actually, when I read that, I was thinking, oh, this makes so much more sense now.
But this movie, I mean, I guess, but it was clear that he was not at all crazy, and he was trying to make people think he was a little bit crazy.
Well, he even said that at one point. But...
At many points, and it was clear that he knew exactly what was going on at all times. He just liked to with people.
He was a little insane.
Well, you've got to be a little crazy to even pull that off. But he pulled it off. I mean, he was crazy. I would like to just go ahead and point out one of my fun facts is this was shot in New Mexico before Breaking Bad. So there were things shot in New Mexico before Breaking Bad.
Wow.
And then my other one is that John Ritter's the one that kills McCanlis. He doesn't say anything, but that's John Ritter.
Well, thanks for spoiling the ending for everybody.
Okay. To anybody who planned on watching this movie or was planning on watching this movie, which there will not be a single person, McCanlis dies at the end. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get there, but okay. Should we get into this scandalous movie?
I don't see how we can't, but this is going to be a fairly short retelling because a whole lot of this movie is inexplicable, crazy exposition by Mr. McCanlis.
Yeah, it's
especially the first 30 to 45 to hour.
I didn't know what the was going on for 45 minutes. I was literally I kept kind of looking at you like, what is happening right now? I'm so confused.
See, I understood what was going on, and I really enjoyed it, but that's like my Mickey training paying off, where I know what crazy people are saying. So we start out with a slur for Mexicans.
Yep, because I wrote down, yeah, that's why it's not on Disney Plus.
Yeah, right away. There's a flag flown for the... Wait.
Okay, so Paco gets dropped off by, his friend or his brother or...
somebody.
Some
human trafficker.
And it's not really explained why he gets dropped off
and
there.
He also doesn't want to. He does not want to go work for this family. He doesn't want to go do this. He has a bad feeling about it.
And so as soon as he gets dropped off, then John comes out, and it's you don't see John's face at first, and who is this guy? And then he just comes out and starts shooting him, and he lassos him, and because he thinks that he's the Whitaker guy.
Right, yeah, he keeps calling him this Whitaker. Oh, but he's not Whitaker, he's just some kind of Mexican.
You ain't Whitaker, you're some kind of Mexican. Who are you anyway? Never mind. Come on up the house and have some bread and gravy.
Yep.
And it's and he tells Amanda, apparently...
His granddaughter,
his real name, but she's like, oh, you're Paco. And it's like, what? He's not Paco, his name's Francisco.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Which was also kind of like, we're not going to acknowledge your real name. Your name is just Paco.
Yeah, we just cruise by that. Okay, you get room, board, and $20 a week and no more. And it seems like he doesn't want to do it. The old man goes off about how there's Apaches, and Paco tries to run away because he's like, you have Apaches? I'm out of here. But then we cut to a scene where Paco's super happy to have the job because he gets room, board, and $20 a week.
And his job is basically to make sure that
the old man eats.
Yeah, and to help him do odd jobs around the farm.
Yeah, and really, it's clear that he needs to get the old man to eat so he doesn't get too drunk.
Yeah, that was so weird. At first I kind of, because the alcohol thing for the first like 15 minutes or 10 minutes didn't really come in. He thought he was a crazy old man.
Yeah, because the next thing that we see is him shooting at a mirror in the house.
Oh my God.
While he's standing in front of it, and Amy is just talking to him as if nothing is happening. As if he's not putting round after round into this mirror right in front of her.
Yep.
And she does not care that he's shooting his gun in the house.
Yeah, he's just... Nope. And and then we cut to Paco in the kitchen. He's just eating ice cubes. And she's, oh, you found something to eat.
And he's like, no, ice cube, ice. Everybody has this, and
I don't know. He was saying his one friend had this, like his in Mexico because it was like a wealthy friend. Like he thought it was so impressive, so he was enjoying it.
Yeah, and he even kind of hid that he was eating the ice when he tried to give Mr. Man his dinner.
Yeah, and
so then they go into this guitar bonding scene.
And this is where I initially really started to feel insane, because he's just like, I don't know, and literally every piece of dialogue that Brian Keith has is like, play this.
That is actually really good. He's like,
and so then he just makes Paco play the guitar and he starts dancing, and I was sitting there and I'm thinking, I feel insane right now. What is happening? What is this movie? What am I watching? This is crazy.
And then he gives Paco the guitar, and Paco's just lit up stoke about getting the guitar.
Yeah. And
then we get a scene of Amy and some rich kid hopping into a Corvette and showing up at the ranch in a Corvette.
So random, because she apparently works at the college
or something like that, even though the rich kid said that they worked together later on.
So they both work at the college, I guess.
But that doesn't check out.
But he works for his dad. Yeah. So it's very confusing, and he's at first kind of slimy and gross, and...
Yeah, he's trying to her in lieu of mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And it's just disgusting. And there's a little scene in there where it's revealed by Amy that the dude married her mom when her mom was 15 years old.
No, her grandpa married her grandma.
No, that's him. He is the grandpa.
I know, married her grandma.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean.
Yeah, when you said mom, so that's what, yeah.
Mom.
When it was 15, and I was like, ooh, John, you are scandalous.
Although the funny thing is I feel like before maybe 1990, maybe 1980, that was a...
Well, yeah, for the time that this is... For the time, it's not scandalous.
Like, stalking somebody used to be charming.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't really understand. But
and so what is this supposed to take place in the 70s? Is that when this supposed to take place?
Okay, based on only the Corvette, yes.
Okay, because it was very confusing.
Oh, and all the other vehicles in the towns. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, and then Mr.
Whitaker?
No. What's his name?
Scandalous John?
Yeah.
McCanlis?
Yeah, I hate that name. I can't remember McCanlis. It's the worst possible name because I wrote it down 50 times and I can't remember it still.
Scandalous McCanlis.
Yeah, Scandalous McCanlis. It would be better as Scandalous McCandless. Mr. McCanlis, he's like, oh, I got hidden assets, and he's
because they're telling this Whitaker guy is like, oh, you're gonna foreclose on your mortgage and blah blah.
Right, and he's shooting in between his feet, and the Whitaker guy doesn't move.
Yeah, and he had at one point tried to offer Amanda money, or like tried to offer.
That's what I mean.
He's basically saying, "Oh, if you sleep with me, I'll take care of this," and it's super skeezy, and like you think he's gonna be like the villain and all of this.
That's what I'm saying. He was trying to for the mortgage. It was gross.
It was really gross.
But back then, like I said, that was just kind of like 70s charming, normal.
Correct, sir.
Yeah, so when he's shooting at his feet, even he doesn't react. The Whitaker guy, he's just like, oh,
yeah, he's tough. He's tough under pressure.
He's shooting at my feet.
He takes off in his Corvette. Dude shoots at his Corvette, whatever. Then we cut to Paco at night just walking around the yard. Dude starts shooting at him, and he's like, ah! And then they start shooting at a bunch of invisible enemies together once John gets downstairs. I'm just going to start calling him John.
Yeah, and at first, I mean, do you think that Paco was just playing along? Or do you think that he was like...
Well, he was a little scared at first.
People.
Then he started playing along, and then they started drinking.
Yeah, we get the drinking buddy scene where... This is where you really start to see, oh, okay, this is why you're crazy. You're just drunk all the time.
Yeah. Well, he's a drunkard, and he had some trauma with his wife, and he had a famous dad. It's
an odd thing for a Disney movie. This alcohol
That's what I mean.
Thing.
It's like an art house movie. It's very much. I feel like this is the story Brian Keith wanted to tell.
Oh, that's depressing.
Yeah.
But
and then he goes on to tell tales about his dad, Pistol Pete McCanlis. And he's like, let him think you're a little crazy.
Yeah, he goes, and so this whole scene where Scandalous John McCanlis is going on and on and on. It's like when you're at a house party and it's really, really, really late and everybody has gone to bed or left, and there's that one crazy person that just like won't go to sleep, and you're in the same room with them and they're like, and they keep going, and you're like, what is happening right now? You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Do I know what you mean? Yeah, of course I know that person.
Yeah, everybody knows that person, right?
Yeah.
And you've been the other person where you're in the room and you're like, I kind of want to go to bed, but I also want to see where this train goes.
Wait, I've also been that person.
Well, everybody also has been that person. That's what I'm saying. Is that it's like that was literally, I was having like college flashbacks or something. I was like, oh god, my life is flashing before my eyes.
And somehow they come up with they're going on a cattle drive
with one cattle.
Yeah, with his one cow. Or as Paco calls it, Quivera, the Golden City. Somewhere in there, Paco asks about getting paid, and he's like, oh, don't worry about getting paid, son. You'll get paid in riches, and you'll be fantastically rich and everything. And then they get into his ex-wife for a second, Fern, and he lights a match next to her picture, and
Paco,
they pass out.
Takes off his hat. Oh, she's very beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And then, after that, it depends... This is the weirdest scene of the movie. As soon as they're done with the picture, Paco is speaking a bunch of Spanish.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And John is speaking a bunch of English and growling. Brr, 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 brr.
And it goes on and on
and it goes on and on and on.
For like a good 45 seconds to a minute.
And it makes absolutely no sense.
And it's like, are they communicating? Like, what is going drunk mind meld? Like,
yeah, it's basically like they're both drunk and talking at each other.
It's very strange. Like, it's very strange.
And then we come up in the morning to a bowl that has like 8 or 9 brands on it.
Before that, though, the best part of this morning part is when old McCanlis John goes out there and Paco's all hung over and he's like, oh, get up, and he just like rips open the curtains and Paco's like, no, I don't want to get up.
Yeah. Oh, whoops. Alright, so we're awake in the morning with the bowl that has 8 brands on it.
That was like oddly hilarious.
It makes it look like it's been stolen multiple times.
It just makes it look like that's not what I thought. I thought he was insane. And he kept branding it.
But it had different brands.
I know.
Well, that's the thing. You don't have more than one brand.
But maybe he did because he's crazy. Mm-hmm. So you're saying he stole it from somebody?
That stole it from somebody. That stole it from somebody. No. That stole it from somebody. And it was the skinniest, ribs sticking out bowl you've ever seen.
Yeah, it was...
And typically you also don't sell a bull for meat.
Well, obviously. And you're not going to take your, quote, herd that's one bull. Because, yeah, and then there's this wackadoodle scene with they're wrangling this bull.
Oh, yeah, where the mule won't let Paco ride it.
No, because it keeps sitting down.
Yeah, every time Paco gets on it.
Which is funny, of course.
And then this whole stupid scene ends with John trying to wrestle the bull and eating and being like, oh, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then the douche young Whitaker kid shows up again as a dime store cowboy with 40-pound chaps on, which is hilarious, and a fake gun.
Yeah, and so he's essentially trying to impress John because he's basically saying, and John acknowledged what he was saying, oh, you're going to try to tame her, or lasso her or something like that.
Although it totally worked.
You're going to leave, so I'm going to stay here and try to your granddaughter.
Yeah.
Like, that's
so
what
he's like, all right, I'll take your money and leave. And that's exactly what he does.
So he gives John money. So then he basically just gets rid of him and Paco, and they leave, and they go into town, and
all the kids run around them. They throw coins at the kids to make them happy because they're like, Scandalous John, Scandalous John. And you're right, there is never, ever any explanation for Scandalous John. No. But this is where it starts.
Yeah. And he just takes the whole horse inside the Western wear clothing store in town, and the clerk clearly is like anxious, probably because he has the whole horse in there. Oh, Mr. McCanlis, how are you, Mr. McCanlis? And he's super anxious about him being in the store.
Yeah, well, he drove a whole horse in there that could easily piss horse in there. Then John is talking about the dude and his cologne, and the dude's like, oh, it's lilac tweed, a man's cologne.
And he says, John's like under his breath, grunty response. He's like something about, it smells like a blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what he said.
Smells like a geranium to me.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That was a great. I actually kind of liked that scene.
Although he was, and then at the end of this scene, Paco is hilariously and ridiculously stoked to get a pair of cowboy boots. He just thinks he is now the bee's knees with his cowboy boots.
Yeah, he's like stomping around and then
strutting. He feels good.
And John tells him, oh, go down to the general store and get this list. And he goes down there. And at first, the guy is not going to help him. And that was the other thing in the general store. The guy was being super racist. He was
yeah.
Because at first, this guy, blah, blah, blah. And like that's part of the problem too. But so he goes down there and then he said, this is for John McCanlis. And okay. And then one guy runs away. And then the clerk's assistant is trying to tell Paco, like,
that he's crazy and you're going to go to jail.
You need to get out of here. Like, you're.
And the other guy was Mexican, of course.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, you need to get out of here. You don't know this guy. He's crazy. You're going to end up in jail. And then the sheriff shows up.
Yeah, and he goes through his whole bit, and John...
Mr. Mash.
And John...
and he's like, nope, non-gun wearing sheriff. He calls him a tin star sheriff because of his little star on his thing. He's going to take me away. So Paco and John just leave without incident from the sheriff.
Yep. And they just start shooting everywhere in the air, and they're shooting their guns in the air. I'm like, how do you get all this ammo?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question because that is a ton of ammo.
I feel as though that's a Western movie stereotype, though.
Either that or ammo used to be real cheap. And also the sheriff said the same derogatory word for Mexicans about 17 times in this scene. Which is clearly why it can't be on Disney Plus, because it would be massively upsetting to most Disney fans.
Yeah. And just nobody in town is reacting to this gunfire. No, they're just
Because everybody loves
okay.
everybody except for the sheriff loves Scandalous John. They all love
Yeah.
him.
So
Then the cops and the Amy and Mr. Jimmy go out to the ranch.
yep. And at this point, John.
Oh, but Jimmy had seen them leave and he knew where they went.
Yeah.
And he lied to the cops about where they went. But somehow John and Paco stuck around. They popped the cops' tires and stole his siren.
Well, John popped the tires, then Paco stole the siren, and they thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, and the sheriff was pissed about the siren. He lost his mind as soon as they found out he stole the siren. He's like, I had to get this from Kansas City, blah, 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 blah. I am after him now. You just watch out. So then Amy feels like she has to pack up into the pickup after she knocks Jimmy clean the out.
Well, because she realizes that he just gave them money and didn't help them get any supplies or anything, and she knows that old Johnny boy is crazy, so she's, like, what are you doing? So somehow, as she's driving away, he manages to just scoop himself up into the pickup.
And my grandpa had that same pickup. That pickup was tight. 63 Ford. Yeah. I drove it quite a bit.
And they, Amanda and young Whitaker drive over to these wacky neighbors that I thought was going to be a more extended scene. I was kind of disappointed it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's just a brief thing where...
And just this old crazy country lady loves Scandalous John. And then as soon as she finds out that he's a Whitaker, they're going to shoot him. And they're shooting at him. They shoot through the truck. And it's just funny enough.
Oh,
and then we get the weird scene with the senator and the banker cunts and the helicopter and the train meeting up.
Yeah,
it's just almost like a throwaway scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Whitaker
But it
Sr.
set up the villainry.
Yeah, it's just Whitaker Sr. coming down and getting on his train, and he's meeting with the bankers because they're the ones that are going to take over the ranch land and all this, and build their development and all this other stuff.
Well, no. What they're trying to do is dam up a river.
Oh, yeah.
And flood the whole thing, getting rid of a bunch of rivers and towns, making a reservoir.
Whitaker's got half the land in the state, all corralled and hog-tied. Let him have his way. And flood the whole place. Build up a big dam, lay it into some kind of a fish pond for dudes. Turn God's good grazing land to mess. First thing you know, there wouldn't be nobody here. No ranches, no rivers, no valleys, no trees, no people, no animals, nobody, nothing. Forever, all gone.
That's what they're trying to do.
What would making a reservoir do?
Well, you can have a hydroelectric dam that produces power, and then you can send all that water off to grow crops like in Eastern Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, then we get, this is another drunken rant. Paco and John are on the trail, and they come across, like...
Garbage?
Yeah, it's like where a wagon, they clearly threw away some garbage, and John...
But it wasn't a wagon, because there was a cooler. It was like a dump.
Yeah, well, John picks up, he says it's a wagon, but he picks
it wasn't, because there was a rotted out mattress.
Yeah, he picks up a woman's shoe, and he goes on this long thing, rambling thing about, I wonder what she's doing now, and she could be here, and she could be there, and like 3 different scenarios.
Well, and he's basically talking about her in pioneer days, which is 100 years before this.
Yeah.
And then he kind of ends it with...
Falling asleep?
Well, not just falling asleep, but he's kind of like, oh, those days are long gone. I don't even really know what I'm talking about. And hey, Paco, put that down. You can't steal people's old...
He's like, have you no respect? No respect.
Hey, I can get some respect here.
Yeah. Oh, and then we get... One of my favorite parts of the movie is they come across this bar in the middle of the desert.
Where it looks like it's a motorcycle gang harassing this lady, but really she's just the bartender.
Yeah, and they're just these harmless dudes just hanging out.
Yeah, they're not a motorcycle gang. They're like motorcycle posers.
Yeah, and so John gets it in his mind that he's going to rescue the lady, and so Paco's like, no, let's not do that, because Paco can see what's going on.
But nonetheless, John charges in At first, he screws up with his lasso, hooks a sign, and himself up.
And the wind came up and knocked me, blah, blah, blah.
Paco helps him back onto his horse, and then he lassos the biker guys, knocks over this weird, like, straw...
It's like a roof, basically. And
straw roof-ish, what would you even call that? Awning.
Yeah, an
awning.
Like
a straw awning. And this lady's all pissed off, and then there's a couple Indian guys sitting there.
And he starts talking to them in Comanche, which Comanche must have just been the go-to Indian that Disney used.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Well, no, but they've used it in several movies.
And I don't even feel like Comanche is appropriate for New Mexico. Sorry, we don't research this. It could be, but I don't think so.
But no, it's not. I don't think, because they literally have used that term for several different movies that we've watched.
Right.
But yeah, the lady's like, you messed up my shit. And he's like, oh, this amount of money should cover it. But
yeah, so he pays off the Indians to take care of the bikers and the lady to not worry about her busted up bar. And he's like, hey, I'll take care of any of you in the future. So he pays them off. And basically, this was the one misdirection to me. I thought that he was trying to just make everybody all around the country that they were trying to flood love him, so that there would be like this big public debate, basically Calloway style, about the whole world is on his side. But that never came to fruition, and it should have.
It didn't. This was definitely a scene that literally had no bearing on anything else in the movie.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. The scenes that they had like this, and with the old lady being like, oh, I love this guy, you thought it was going the way of the Callaways, which would have made more sense. It would have made more sense if they had the senator and the banker cunts all together, and the crowd like booed them down from doing their project.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's why this movie is so odd.
Yeah.
So then, after he completely misreads this situation, there's just another scene. Again, there's a lot of talking scenes in this, which maybe that's also why I don't like it.
A lot of exposition. You don't like this movie?
No, I mean, it's not. I just found it kind of boring. But so Amanda and young Whitaker are, because I don't remember his first name, I just keep calling him Jimmy are. I like young Whitaker better. Amanda and young Whitaker are just sitting out there in their truck because they're looking for John and the dude, or John and Paco, and then they just blah blah blah, and
Amanda telling little stories.
Amanda, he can't go on like this, and my grandpa.
It's a good impression. But then, because right prior to this, Paco and John went through a sandstorm. They waking up from the sandstorm, and they're all covered in sand, and oh my god. And Paco's like, hey, I want to get paid. John is like, well, I'll just make you a full partner instead.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay you.
A full partner and I don't know what. Basically in this one cow. But Paco is stoked about that. They stumble across this city or this little town.
And this part was actually really funny because it's clearly a real town, and Paco wants to go in there. He's like, there's beer, there's ice cream, and John's over there. It's a mirage. Don't fall for it. It's a mirage.
Yeah.
And then literally they're going through the desert, and there's a giant metropolis city in the background.
I'm gonna assume that's Albuquerque.
And then John's like, another mirage.
Yeah. And then they come up onto this disgusting bog that has a bunch of other cows at it. And they jump in the water and they're all happy. And, and he's drinking the disgusting...
Stop. I literally...
bog water.
I feel like I'm going to throw up. Stop it.
Yeah. It was just... It was very bizarre, but Paco was a good man to go along with everything.
And then we get the one song in the movie...
The Pasture Green song, which makes no sense.
And it's this long...
Each man must find a pasture green, somewhere beyond.
Oh, they're riding over the hill and the sun is setting. Oh, the sun is rising. Oh, there's a trail. Oh, look at the cow. And they're going along and pasture green. It sounded as though they were trying to emulate Moon River, but with pasture green.
Yeah, they probably were, but they did a terrible job.
Moon River.
Yeah, it was nowhere near as good as that.
Yeah.
So then we come into Warbag, which they had talked about earlier in the movie, which is really just a tourist trap town of fake Indians and fake Western vibes.
Well, it's like if you go to essentially one of those, like a medieval village or anything that's
it's like Leavenworth, but instead of Germans, it's Old West.
Yeah. And for those who aren't from Washington, Leavenworth is a town in the middle of the state that is all German, but it's a Bavarian village town. But even more so than that, this is one of those tourist traps, basically, where it's all the people that work there, that you have to play these parts, and you have to be in character all the time.
And you're a volunteer somehow, which makes no sense. It's a matter of civic pride. It's like, wait, no.
Yeah, because John goes in there, and then the people who are visiting mistake John for part of the like entertainment,
right? Because he's trying to gamble and he shoots at the gambling guy,
and it's a whole awkward, weird interaction with the bartender and the blackjack dealer, and
then the train into town, and then he shoots at the train.
Yeah, he goes out, shoots at the train, and it's Whitaker's train. He doesn't realize that it's Whitaker
And the senators.
Yeah. And the sheriff comes out and they're taking him away and they're like, oh, young Paco, you didn't do anything. And then Paco shoots at the train. He's like, I did something now.
So that Paco can go to jail with him.
And Amanda has shown up at this point.
Yeah, and young Whitaker. Young Whitaker goes onto the train that his dad's on.
Well, yeah, his dad's like, come here now. And, oh, gotta go to jail. He's like, no, get over here, kid.
And he's like, oh, it's... And he's asking him about the whole development thing. He's like, oh, it's 4 rivers lost, 2 towns lost, and all these lives, and I'm woke now.
Yeah. It's all of a sudden, oh, you're the good guy? Like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah. He's like, oh, Dad, I just want to see you lose once.
And it's just this.
It's like, are you kidding me?
This didn't.
Dude, you're costing yourself money. But really, it's all just because young Jimmy wants to get some...
Right, but this doesn't play at
some
all.
Very specific...
Because if he wants to pay her, and then now all of a sudden you're going to be some good guy knight in shining armor, ugh.
Well, that's what works.
No, I just didn't buy it.
I feel like that's how we got the Pootie Tang, or basically that's how John told him how to do it. Is like, hey, you got to be a man. I'm going to take your money, but you got to be a man about this and take her.
Sure. And so they're in jail, but John's got this nice cot set up. He's got all these blankets, and he starts hallucinating about his wife. And then Rebecca, oh, he can't go on like this.
Amanda.
Sorry, Amanda, whatever. Amanda.
And Paco's like, oh, he was 3 days, no food, just drinking.
Yeah, and basically she's saying he's got to go into a home.
Right, and then Whitaker shows up at the jail.
And yeah, he makes John sign the paper signing over his farm.
Right, and he finds out Amy doesn't care about the ranch.
No, and she tells old Johnny that she doesn't care, and it makes him very sad.
Yeah, which, like, what kind of a granddaughter wouldn't have cared?
Yeah, she's the worst.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I gotta keep him guessing. You gotta keep him guessing that you're actually crazy. Get out of my jail cell.
Yeah, and Paco is just chilling outside the jail cell somehow, and he managed to steal back their guns.
Yeah, and the guy's like, get back in the jail cell. Yeah, so they steal back their guns. And Jim also at the same time is helping Amy break them out of the jailhouse because he wants to get that.
Yeah, and
so they make the jailbreak after Paco sees the herd getting stolen and gets mad and shoots his gun off.
Yeah.
And then it's clear that Jimmy wins over the Poonie because she kisses him.
Yep. and they're able to pull the whole side of the wall out of the jail.
Yeah, yeah. And then they hijack the train. Paco has to drive. First, John makes the Department of Health guy jump off the train.
Well, because John goes back into the cabin where all of the dudes are, and there's a mariachi band in there, and the cow is in there.
Yeah. Well, they're partying with the cow.
Yeah, and so yeah, he makes the one guy jump off. Because they told John that his herd was tainted. They lied to him.
Tainted.
To get him
and
to...
he's like, well, if it was on here, it wouldn't be tainted now, would it?
Yeah, and so he makes him jump off, and eventually he makes...
The banker cunts jump off.
Everyone jump off.
Then the mariachis jump off.
Before the mariachis jump off, Paco had left the front of the train.
Oh, the train drives itself. It's on tracks. It's on track.
Yeah, and he comes back there, and then John's like, oh, go stabilize it. And then everybody jumps off, including the mariachi people. And...
No, the mariachi people get kicked off.
Well,
it's not...
Yeah, no, I know. He makes each of them jump off individually. But he pays them so they're happy. And he gives them, like, the guitar or something.
He's a fair guy.
Yeah. Then John basically challenges Whitaker to a shootout.
To a duel.
And so they lay their guns on the table, but the train is about to crash into the mine.
Right, and the train crashes right as the other dude, as Whitaker picks up the gun.
Yeah.
And John gets out of the train after it crashes and hooks up with Paco, and they're like, oh, yeah, everything's good. Whitaker gets out of the train with a gun by his side. He doesn't do anything, but then the little, I don't even know what it's called, the little pony thing that you pump up and down the tracks.
Yeah.
With Mr. John Ritter, he gets off and he just shoots Scandalous John.
Yeah, it's so weird. And then the Whitaker guy...
He's like, no!
Which I'm like, you guys were just ready to shoot each other. The end of this movie makes no sense to me.
Well, the Whitaker guy allegedly was not going to shoot him. He was cool with everything after they got in a train wreck. And
right.
You feel like Jimmy, who was right next to that guy that shot him, might have done something about that, like knocked the dude's hand down.
No, it was weird. And so
it was very weird.
Yeah, he gets shot, and then all of a sudden, Whitaker's like, oh, you can keep the ranch. And I'm like, what? This doesn't... It literally makes no sense.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he dies.
Well, yeah, he dies after Paco tells him that they made it to Cuervara. Like, they made it to the Golden Valley. Yeah. He's dead. And then we cut to Paco is about to go home. He's about to go back to Mexico.
Is this the first, like, death we've had in one of these live-action movies?
No, we've had other deaths.
But not like a series, like a main character, I mean.
Yeah, I guess.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Paco is going to go back to Mexico, apparently.
But he gets the bull and the donkey,
and then
the mule.
And then he gets Ghost John.
Yeah, and he has Ghost John. He's like, oh, yeah, man. And that's the end. That's it.
Yeah, that's the end.
Confused-faced Kelly.
Well, yeah, this movie was a little confusing, yeah. It was, it was an odd movie, that's for sure. What was your favorite part, David?
The part where they were in town, I think from soup to nuts was my favorite part. So when they ride in and you've got the light-footed fella in the store all the way down to them just boning out on the sheriff was hilarious.
Yeah, that part was pretty good. I
really like that part.
That part wasn't bad. I like the drinking buddy scene at the beginning.
Yeah, that was really good too.
Paco and John are it's just because I didn't really understand what was happening, and then I was like, oh my god, what? So much alcohol. And I also enjoyed the scene where John is chasing the, quote, motorcycle gang away from the lady, because it has no bearing on anything else in the movie, but I still kind of enjoyed that.
That was pretty good.
It was funny.
My part, too, was actually the Legend of McCanlis, where everybody loves Scandalous John. Like, the lady shooting off the the guy off her property and just everybody like
just
Scandalous John, Scandalous John.
Like as a collective, how everybody loves him.
Yeah, it was. Well, that scene was part of the collective. Yeah, that was my other favorite part.
Okay.
The legend of McCanlis.
But didn't they mean like his dad?
But see that part too. It was kind of like that whole kind of arc of the story was my favorite.
Gotcha.
Where it was him and his dad that everybody just loved.
Yeah.
And the songs, that stupid Pasture song was awful.
Pasture's green. Boom, boom, boom. So our main character, McCanlis, I mean...
Loco Gringo.
Brian Keith, I mean, he basically showed that he's just a better actor than everybody else in this movie. No, but I mean, really, like...
Except for maybe Paco.
Yeah.
Paco was really
Paco
good.
was good, and their chemistry was really good together, but it just... He played the best crazy old actor he could possibly play.
Yeah, he did a really good job.
And open the door there, barkeep. Just jump right off the train now. Go ahead. I do like I tell ya.
He looked really old in this movie.
They made sure that he did. They really applied.
Did this come after Parent Trap?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But honey, they applied all that white hair and
It looked
beard.
real old. It was
Right. They tried to make him look as old as they could, and all the like cakey face paint stuff to him.
Yeah.
They definitely did what they needed to do. And Paco, the Mexican fellow with the heart of gold, he was an amazing character, main character.
Yeah, he was pretty good, and he just
He just had a heart of gold. That's it. That was his whole thing.
he just wanted to get paid.
Doing good deeds.
Yeah.
And the villain, the Whitaker cunts, both young and old.
But young Whitaker ended up, he wasn't really a villain. It was
No,
weird.
he was a villain because it ended up being his property anyways. He just kind of the old guy out of it one way or the other because he his granddaughter.
But main villain Whitaker, I mean, he's like a typical Western villain, like sort of like.
Who was only there for the last 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, and it was very anticlimactic.
Although he did a really good job.
No, he did do a good job, but the whole thing was very anticlimactic because he's like, oh yeah, I don't care about the farm anymore, like whatever. Like, okay, you just get, like, and that was kind of a problem for me. Like, that whole thing just didn't really track well at all.
And then for side characters, we had Amy, the tough as nails, desert.
Why do you keep calling her Amy?
It was easier for me to remember than Amanda.
Okay.
Yeah, the tough as nails, desert, 8 out of 10.
She don't need no man until she does.
She was like a desert 8, Hollywood 3.
Well, her whole character just was kind of strange because she's, oh, I'm gonna punch you because I hate you so much, but then I'm just gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, I love you now that my grandpa's dead. Like, I don't know, it was just okay.
Yeah, she had some problems.
It was weird. I don't care about the ranch, but now I'm gonna live on the ranch with you.
And then the cinematography, it was a beautifully shot movie.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it on HD.
I like the scenery that they had in it. Yeah. It was fine. I mean, it's a typical. Yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah. So, and for surprise disappointment, I was surprised at how unique this movie is. Like I said often and earlier, this is a Disney art house film. And there's nothing like it. You're not going to get anything that depicts crazy mental illness like this movie before or after ever again.
I just was surprised that he died. Like, no, really. I mean, I thought he was going to just all of a sudden, like, roll over and go,
You feeling better, Ocho?
You know, like...
Yeah,
he was gonna,
cough
himself back to life. And then him and Paco were gonna ride off into the sunset back to the ranch and they were gonna high five. If you remade this movie, David.
No. Nobody's remaking this movie. It's not possible or necessary.
No, you could make it a true Calloway's sequel where he's not in New Mexico, he's on the geese farm. Lady Calloway's passed away.
Or you could remake Calloway's as a prequel to this movie.
No, Calloway's is a perfect movie. It doesn't need to be remade. No, it's saying this guy. this is the world I live in. It needs to be a Calloway sequel. Has the alcoholism thing going for it. It makes too much sense.
Fair enough. I wouldn't do it. The only thing I could find for money on this movie was that they made $27,000.
I could literally find nothing about money.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, I couldn't find anything about budget or how much they made. I mean, this was a very low budget movie, I think.
Low? It has to be like the lowest budget movie of all time.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think anybody's really ever seen this movie. There's like 50 reviews on Amazon, so.
Right. And then once you see the social media for this movie, basically, if you've watched this movie on Amazon, it also recommends that customers who have watched this movie watch all the other movies we've watched.
Not all of them, just Monkey's Uncle and Boatniks.
Yeah. Right.
So those other customers are actually us.
Right.
On Amazon.
So, I mean, do you have any final thoughts that are relevant?
It's very slow. I've found this movie pretty boring, actually. There were parts that I really enjoyed, but I have a feeling that you enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did.
I really like this movie. I think it's a movie that you can watch and be enjoyed by, and with its craziness and its looniness. So if you had to rate this movie, Kelly, what would you rate it?
I already know this is going to be a discrepancy, because I want to preface this rating by saying I didn't hate this movie, but I just found myself incredibly bored for the vast majority of the movie. There was literally like 3 scenes that I wasn't bored in, so I gave this movie a 35%.
Damn it, I was wrong. Okay. I wrote down a 2 first. Except that was going to be
No, I gave it a 35%. Like, I'm just not really into Westerns. It's not really for me. There were a couple scenes that were very enjoyable, and Brian Keith is enjoyable as always, but not for me. Not really my thing.
So I gave this movie a 63%. I think Kelly really downplays how funny this movie is.
Okay.
And kind of the genius of some of the insanity of this movie. If you know anybody who's mentally ill or anything like that, I think you can have a pretty deep appreciation for this movie. It may be one of the most unique Disney movies out there.
It's definitely unique. I will give you that.
And I really appreciate it for that. So I give it 63.
It's a pretty hefty score there.
What do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie is?
I mean, it can't be good.
Can't it?
Well, considering the overuse of certain derogatory terms, no.
So what do you think it is?
I'm gonna guess a 44%.
It's 20%.
20%?
Yeah.
Wow. So David is in the strong minority. He likes this movie.
A little bit.
But that's okay.
I thought it was great. I mean, other than some very rough language and some confusing scenes.
So
I think it's a very good movie.
This is one of those movies that I will have fond memories of.
Of course.
And I will say, oh, it's so scandalous, and I'll make jokes about, but it's just, just as a whole, it's too slow for me. I don't really like Westerns that much. It's just not for me.
And to me, it's very funny. There are a lot of great scenes. It's well written. It's a different kind of movie than you would ever expect.
It's very different, that's for sure.
And that's going to get high points from me any time of the week. And now,
whoo!
It's time for Kelly's favorite part of the podcast.
Yeehaw! I'm shooting my guns. Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, 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 pew. And we get number 92.
Oh, good lord. That's an old one.
Yeah, it's a little older than the one that we just watched.
It's older than what we just watched?
Yeah, the one we just watched was 101.
So this is in the 60s then.
So, like, all of a sudden, our big gap, we've kind of filled up a little bit.
This is in the 60s, isn't it?
It is. The end of the 60s.
I don't know anything about that period of time. I'm going to guess it's live action just based on probability.
It's a good guess.
Because there was like 2 animated Disney movies in the 60s. But
Yeah. So it's from 1969. It is a massive banger. It's 1969's The Love Bug. AKA Herbie 1.
Herbie the OG original. Okay. Oh gosh. Wow.
So what do we think this is about? It's probably about Herbie.
I'm gonna take a real wild guess here that it's about the origins of Herbie, the VW bug with the heart of gold.
The racing VW bug with the heart of gold. So,
and I'm guessing that there's like, and I don't know the story. I'm guessing there's like some dude and he's like, I gotta enter this race, man. And he like can't afford to get the car. And his dad's like, you need to focus on your studies, son.
And then there's some hot old lady that helps him in.
Sure. Yeah. You mean like a wealthy lady? And she's like, don't discount old Herbie there.
Yeah.
And then Herbie's like, meh, meh.
Yeah.
Herbie's like, meh, meh, with his hood and his lights. And he's like, whoa, this car can go so fast. And then he goes up the, what's that thing that's in all the movies? The tunnel, the thing in LA, the LA River. He goes up the side of the LA River. He's like, meh.
You think the LA River is featured in this? All right.
I do think the LA River is featured in this.
I'm going to go with a racetrack, but all right.
You can picture it when I say it, though, can't you?
I can, but I don't know if the LA River is that old, but we'll see. So, yeah, if you would like to follow us on Facebook or Instagram, those are the 2 places you can find us. We'll interact with you in any old way you want. If you want to send us an email at thedisneymovies@gmail.com.
Please like, subscribe, share. Leave us a review, all that good stuff. We would vastly appreciate it if you could do that.
Yeah, all of it helps.
It does.
Or just listen, and, we enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, this has been At the Disney Movies with the Hearts.
I'm Kelly.
I'm David.
Bye! How does she know?
She knows when we say that it's time to go. That right there is a very smart dog.
She's just like, oh, bye!
You don't give her a lot of credit, but
I give her plenty of credit.
A very...
Okay. Puppy.
Lily, what are you doing? She's like, I gotta inspect the garage before I just lay down like Luke. Luke's like, I gotta get comfy. I'm trying to get under the Totoro thing. I'm trying to get under the real thing. I just want to be comfortable.
He just wants to be a dick.
Oh, dang it.
While we talk about the most scandalous movie this side of the mountains.
Yeah! Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That might have been a little bit much.
Don't do that.
Yahoo! That's still too much. Damn it. I can't get far enough away from the mic. Yoo-hoo! I can do a little like that.
It's not the same, though. You don't have that same gusto.
Yeah, no, I know.
Just drink a little more, and then you can
I don't think I need to drink more to get that gusto. I think I've already drank enough to get that gusto.
No, but you gotta really get into character.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the character.